This is Laugh or Death, hosted by keynote speaker Paul Osincup.
Life gets heavy, and even if we can't laugh at it, we can learn to laugh through it. This is Laugh or Death, a podcast about finding humor, meaning, and resilience by balancing life's gravity with levity. I'm Paul Osincup, and I'm a keynote speaker, a corporate trainer, and a comedian. I'm also the author of the book, The Humor Habit. And for the past decade or so, I've been studying and speaking on the impact of humor on our happiness and our overall well-being. I know you might be thinking like, wow, that sounds extraordinarily nerdy. And you are right. I am a self-proclaimed humor nerd. Thank you very much. But yeah, I've always kind of just been interested in how humor affects us, our relationships, our well-being, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here and listening. And in this first episode, I want to kind of give you a little roadmap, the why, the how of what we're going to do here. And I'll be honest, I myself am a recovering serious person. Even like making this podcast, I've been trying to not, I want it to be excellent. I want it to be perfect, but I don't want it to sound like perfect. I've got some notes of what I want to say, but I don't want to be reading this to you. And so I've been way overthinking this whole thing. So it's all I can do to just chill and try to just do this in one take, and whatever happens, happens. And I overthink a lot of things. And one of the big reasons why I'm doing this podcast is because I have found that there is an epidemic that's affecting millions of people all over the globe. It's a condition that I call chronic seriousness. And this massive subsection of people who are suffering from chronic seriousness are called adults. So if you or someone you know is an adult or may become an adult, talk to your doctor about your sense of humor. But in all seriousness, there was a survey, I think it's a Gallup, global happiness survey, of 1.4 million people across 166 countries that found that our propensity to laugh just absolutely nosedives when we hit age 23. And we don't start gaining those laughs back again until we're almost 80. So this is like almost 60 years of chronic seriousness. This is almost 60 years of limiting our own access to a resilience tool that is built into the human psyche. Even me, I talk about humor and do comedy for a living, and I still get caught up in taking myself and my work and my life way too seriously. I remember when I first started doing what I do now as a keynote speaker, I had this awesome opportunity to speak at this big conference in Boston. And there was going to be all these Fortune 500 companies there. And so I was like dialed in. I had my business cards in my suit pocket. And I was like ready to I am going to network like I have never networked before. Anyone who even makes eye contact with me, they are getting a business card. And so I was just ready to go. I wasn't going to let that opportunity pass by. And so everyone I talked to, I'm like, hey, my name's Paul. I'd love to be in contact with you. Hey, my name's Paul. I'd love to work together sometime. And I remember I was talking with this one executive, and as he started to walk off, I go, oh, hey, wait a second. And I reach in my coat pocket and I go, give me a call sometime. And I hand him my hotel room key. And he just looks at it and he goes, oh, that escalated quickly. And I was like, oh my God, no. And my neck started to turn red. My face started to turn red, and I was like, what an idiot, I was beating myself up about it. Like, you idiot, this guy's never going to call you now. And I was so embarrassed. I don't know why I was so beating myself up over it. He was a nice guy and he kept our room clean. But in the moment, I did not see the humor in that. Obviously now that's a funny story. When I told the story later, I started to see the humor in it. But in the moment, it's like my brain, and I think a lot of people in the time that I've been doing this work, I think there's a lot of people who have this where our brains kind of cast us as a lead actor in a drama. And everything that happens throughout our days and our weeks is a scene in this drama. And so it's like, this thing is happening to me. My brain was catastrophizing this moment, like, oh no, now I'm never going to be able to work with this guy. I've ruined this great opportunity. And, as this dramatic scene, I'm making it like worst case scenario, when in fact, it was actually a pretty funny moment. But you don't need to hear it from me or my statistics or stories or whatever. You can take it from the best source there is, the experts, which are old people, as far as I'm concerned. But there's a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And in this book, there's a palliative care nurse, Bronnie Ware, and she interviewed people within the last 2 weeks of their lives who knew they were dying. And she asked them about their top regrets in life. And then she categorized them into 5 main categories. And this is what people said were the top 5 like I wishes or regrets that they had in their life. One was, I wish I had let myself be happier. And that was really key, particularly let myself be happier, because there was a knowledge with these people who were at the end of their lives that they realized that so much of their own happiness had been within their control the whole time, and that maybe they were just hanging on to grievances or grudges or patterns of thinking that weren't serving them, and that they could have changed that and lived a little bit different. Another regret was, I wish I didn't work so much. Another one was, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. And I wish I had the courage to live my life true to myself, and not the life that other people expected of me. And finally, I wish I had stayed in touch with friends. But one theme that really came out of the courage to live a life true to myself and letting myself be happier is that overwhelmingly, people at the end of their lives also said, I wish I had laughed more and had more silliness in my life. I hear those types of realizations and concerns in the conversations that I have with people all over the world after my talks. One of the best parts of my job, I do these keynote talks, and then afterward, I get off the stage and I get to just talk with people about humor, usually, which is like really cool for me as someone who loves the topic, right? But getting to hear people of like what resonates with them, what stood out to them, and what I hear when I talk with people about this stuff, I'll be honest, I used to not even know how much I really even believed in my own message. I mean, I believed in it somewhat. Like I loved making people laugh, and I knew that humor was good for us, and there's a lot of statistics and research. But one of the best things is hearing from people afterward. Some people will share with me about how they feel like they've been so caught up in achieving more, working more, doing more, working longer hours, that they've like lost their sense of humor. I had one guy I remember tell me that he thinks he forgot how to laugh. And at the same time, I have other people who want to come up and share with me their stories about how they do use humor at work or throughout their days, or how humor helped them get through tough times. Like there was this one woman who just recently, a couple weeks ago, I was at an event. When I got done speaking, she came up and told me that when her dad passed away, and she said that her and her siblings have a great laugh at the final picture they had with their dad before he died. They were all in Chicago. They were sightseeing. Their dad was there, and they asked this couple if they could take a picture of all of them. And it was this Nigerian couple. And so the man took the camera, and the Nigerian woman went and stood in the picture with them. I think they were confused. They thought maybe they wanted a picture with her or something. And so the reason that her and her siblings thought it was so funny is because one of the biggest pain points of them with their dad, and one of the things they had a hardest time with their dad, is that he was pretty racist. And so they still to this day just crack up at that picture, knowing that the last photo he ever took with all of them together was with them and this Nigerian woman. And it brought her great joy, her and her siblings, laughing about that. And I get to hear all of these just cool conversations after I do these talks. And I have all of these individual moments with people all over the world. And now I want to invite you to be part of it. I'll be honest, like the inner critic in me says, look, there are way too many podcasts in the world, and this is a waste. It probably, won't make a difference. And the last thing the world needs is another podcast from a middle-aged white dude. And maybe that's true. Who knows? But the purpose of it and the why has really overpowered that for me, because I do really feel like we need to be able to balance the gravity of life with the levity of it. And we have never been in a time where we are surrounded by more gravity of the hard points of life than we are now. We, day to day, minute to minute, second to second, we are getting images and stories from our own local communities about things that are happening, as well as all over the world. And humans didn't used to live like that. We didn't used to always get like the bad news from everywhere in the world all at once, all the time. And we know that our brains want to focus on the negative things first before they really focus on the positive things. It's true that life can be hard and depressing and chaotic, but it's also absurd and funny and fun. And we can rewire our brains to focus more on those things. I've been trying to rewire my brain to focus more on the lighter side of life for years. And I want to help you do the same. So we're going to bring you a combination of some great conversations that hopefully will inspire you, entertain you, make you laugh. But also for the more analytical people out there, we'll mix in some deep dive solo episodes with some of the science, the how-tos and tips for how to freak out less and live overall happier and lighter life. Who knows? I may even take you behind the scenes and try to work out some of my material for talks and stand-up as I take a topic and try to figure out like how to make it funny. Like I know there's probably humor in this, but I haven't figured out how to make a joke out of it or make it funny yet. And maybe we'll mix in some of that stuff in a few episodes here and there. The guest interviews will be a diverse array of people, from comedians to get their thoughts on how the average person can get their brain to be hardwired for humor the way a comedian does. But we'll also talk with industry leaders, experts, and all sorts of brilliantly imperfect people about how humor shows up in their daily lives and when it's helped them get through hard times. And in those episodes where I'm talking with a guest, I'm going to have two questions that I always ask. I mean, the whole conversation will be unscripted. Who knows where it'll go? But there's two questions that I'll ask in every episode. One will be toward the beginning. I'm going to ask, what's something weird about you that you love, or something weird that makes you happy? And in a later episode, I'll talk about why that question, the science behind why that's a really helpful question. But overall, that'll hopefully help kind of let guards down, break the ice a little, and let us get to know our guest a little bit in a real way. For example, something weird about me or something weird that makes me happy. I've got a couple dogs, and I love the smell of my dog's feet. That's kind of weird about me. If you don't have dogs, you're probably like, that's gross. Even if you do have dogs, you probably think that. But, it's just, for some reason, my dog's feet, they kind of smell like Fritos corn chips. And it's just like a smell that's like, if I smell my dog's feet, it means we're probably cuddling on the couch or something. And it just makes me feel good. So that's a weird thing about me. But the other question that I'll ask all the guests on the show later in the conversation is to talk about how humor helps them get through hard times. And, maybe when humor has shown up when they didn't expect it. Kind of the overall feeling of like, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? People always say that. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. But have you ever had lemonade made from just lemons? Like, that's gross. You don't want lemonade made from just lemons. No, nobody ever is like, hey, sorry you didn't get that job, Carl. Here, have a glass of citric acid. That'll make things good. No, to make lemonade, you need a sweetener. And humor is life's sweetener. And so it turns out that developing a humor habit, specifically using humor to cope with life struggles, actually does. It reduces our stress. It lessens the impact of even traumatic events. It increases overall life satisfaction, even job satisfaction. And it leads to a greater sense of resilience and psychological well-being. And it turns out that with practice and using some tools that I call humor habits, you can rewire your brain to see the lighter side of life more often and to develop your sense of humor into a powerful and intentional mindfulness tool. I'll give you an example of one habit, and we'll get into it more in a later episode, but it's called Humorous Reappraisal. I shared with you earlier that example of me giving that hotel room key to that executive, and that in the moment I didn't see the humor in it. But then later I was able to kind of see the humor in it. And hey, it turns out, like, believe it or not, it's been like 10 years since me and that executive, since I handed him my hotel room key. And believe it or not, here we are 10 years later, and me and that executive now have still never spoken again. Yeah, I wish I could have wrapped that up in a happy little bow for you. But this isn't a Disney movie. It's real life, right? And sometimes, we just kind of screw things up and it's fine, even funny. But our brain, again, makes us this dramatic actor in this scene, a drama, and makes it out to be like this massive failure or embarrassment, when really these moments might just be funny footnotes on the road to wherever we are going in life. But humorous reappraisal is being able to look back at these stressful moments and find humor in them later. And it turns out that actually builds resilience in a lot of different ways. It increases our overall positive emotions and decreases negative emotions when thinking back about stressful moments. And so I'll share with you another example from my real life, and a little bit deeper one. This past year, my mom died. And she was in the hospital. It was a little bit unexpected. We weren't expecting her to go, definitely not that quickly and definitely not that day. And she passed away, and we were there in the hotel room, me, my sister, my stepdad, and the doctors gave us the room to ourselves after she passed to be there for a little bit just with her and say our goodbyes. And about 10 minutes into, mourning and talking to her after she passed, all of a sudden the door swings open and a nurse's aide walks in and goes, "I've got lunch here for Deborah." And I was like, honestly, I was like pretty angry. I think I was being protective of my family, but I quickly shooed the nurse's aide out. I'm like, "No, this is not a good time. Like, go," and, kind of shooed them out of there. And it actually, it really upset me in the moment. I was angry about it. And I was processing this later on with both my sisters, and they're both nurses. And so I just was kind of angry. Like, how does a hospital not have a protocol for this? Like, how is it that me and my college roommate had a better system for privacy than this hospital does, right? But I was kind of angry about it. And this is a grievance I could have held on to for my entire life. Like, being mad that this moment happened while I'm upset about the death of my mom. But then as me and my sisters were talking about it, something switched in our brains, and we started talking about it as though this weren't the moment of a television drama, and I wasn't the lead actor in the drama, right? What if that same scene happened, but my life was a comedy, and that I was the lead actor in the comedy? What would that actor have done or said in that moment? And going back and playing that hypothetical is actually really good to build resilience. So, maybe they burst in and go, "We've got lunch here for Deborah." And I look over and go, "The hospital said if it wasn't here before she died, it's free." Or, "We've got lunch here for Deborah. You know what? She heard it was meatloaf again and she decided she'd rather not." Or, "We've got lunch here for Deborah." Lunch? Look what breakfast did to her. It doesn't even matter if what I come up with cracks me up or cracks you up or whatever. Just the act of doing that, playing that game, that what I could have said or done game, helps us let go of the gravity of the moment, helped me move on and helps us build resilience for the next thing that might happen in life. And I realize in doing these types of habits, we don't have to live that way. I realize that I don't want to live my life as an actor in a drama just to reach the end to find out I was the director and it could have been a comedy. The point is that a lot of our own happiness and well-being and resilience is within our direct control, even during difficult times. And much of that control is what we feed our brains, what we tell ourselves, what we pay attention to, what we watch and listen to. So my goal with this podcast is just to give you something positive to listen to that will feed your brain with some inspiration, some strategies to make life feel a little lighter and more fun and more meaningful. I'm sure that the show will evolve over time based on your feedback and hopefully based on me getting better at what I do. But overall, I'm just really excited that you're here and that you're listening and that you're joining me on this, I don't want to say journey. Journey sounds really cheesy. Like you're joining me on this journey I don't know what. I'm just glad you're listening. I'm glad you're here and that you're joining me on whatever this is that we're doing. And I am glad you're here because I don't want you to live your life as an actor in a drama just to reach the end to find out that you were the director and it could have been a comedy. So until next time, thanks for listening. Before you go, do me a favor and follow Laugh or Death wherever you're listening to this podcast right now. It really helps us to bring a new episode to you each week. And if you want more information on how to rewire your brain to see the humor in life more often, then just go to laughordeath.com and check out my book, The Humor Habit.
You've been listening to Laugh or Death with Paul Osincup. If you're planning a conference or event and want something smart, meaningful, and actually funny, book Paul to speak. To learn more or to get a copy of his book, The Humor Habit, visit laughordeath.com.